November, we do have a Part A matter, and it's the Mount Pleasant School 40 kilometres per hour speed zone. So this has been an ongoing issue in Mount Pleasant. People have seen the councillive reports from Mount Pleasant, the 30 kilometre hour signs that the kids have put up with painted plates and on stakes around the community for a long time. And while it's not possible to do 30 kilometres, there is a 40 kilometre zone proposed, and we'd like council to adopt that today. Our board recommendation is that goes ahead. It's a real issue on the hill with narrow roads and cars and lots of children walking to school. So,
yes.
You said it's not possible to do 30 kilometres, even in those circumstances?
Not for the school speed zones. It's to do with legislation.
So
We have had deputations that have said that having a 30 kilometre zone on the hill generally would be quite good, like as a general speed on the hill.
And you're not allowed to do that either?
That's a really long process that hasn't been started at this point.
It would require a specific consultation.
It would require a lot of consultation, and in fact, we've had deputations on 30 kilometre, just normal street zones around the area as well. Yeah, neighbourhood streets.
It's interesting because the central city plan has now provision for 30 k's. So in the central core.
Yeah.
And
there are cities overseas who have 30 kilometre neighbourhood street. Just generally right throughout whole cities.
That's right.
And it's really effective, and it actually doesn't cut down on people's transport to work time and those kind of things by any more than a couple of minutes.
Maybe we could ask the chief executive to follow up on whether on what is the process for establishing 30k areas in particular neighbourhoods. Yeah. And we'll get a report on what is the process that we'd have to go through, because I think it wouldn't just be in your ward area that you'd want to actually potentially look at.
The hills are quite a different area though, because the hills often, because they're narrow, windy roads, but they also often only have footpath on one side. Yeah. And sometimes no footpath at all on either side. And there's a section of road up here, Billy's Track, that won't be covered by the 40 kilometre zone because it's outside of those immediate roads from the school. Yeah. And staff are currently working on a way to try and do that, because it's there's a blind corner just before it where the kids have to cross the road. And it's a real issue, and there's been a few close calls.
That's great. Well, we'll see if we could get a report early in the new year.
Yeah, we can do that. We normally have a cycle of looking at the speed limits, but we'll see where we're at and what the process is, as the Mayor says, and then we can timetable them.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Right, so would you like to move this? Jani Johansson moves, seconded by Councillor Lonsdale. Yes?
Not to go over what's already been said, but just to also thank Michael Thompson, who's been the traffic engineer working on that. He's really tried to find as many possible solutions for this complicated issue. Yeah. And, I think the other point that hasn't been said is that there's a lot of construction, so there's a lot of heavy vehicles going on in this area alongside road repairs and service repairs. So it is really critical that we get this in place, and we will continue to look at what improvements we can do. Thanks.
Probably through the Phil's committee. Yeah. All right, so I will put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Are there any other items on that agenda that you'd like to touch on?
No, not at this point. No, thank you.
Yes.
Sarah, the Mount Pleasant Memorial Centre that we saw gorgeous designs of.
Yes.
What's actually holding it up? And that's the first one. And then I have one about the tannery after that.
I don't believe there's anything holding that up now. They still have a lease left for 5 years, and they're able to progress. And we're still looking at the lease because there's a whole pile of historic issues over the lease that are yet to be resolved with the council.
And so are they able to start building?
They're able to keep progressing, yeah.
Right, okay. Second one, the bus stop, which was a fantastic looking design around near the tannery where they wanted to put the bridge over as well. Gorgeous concept. Is that going to go ahead? I see they've asked you for a...
They're going. We've asked staff to work with them on options.
So you've agreed to it.
But that particular bus stop would be one not near the river, and the other side where the bus route actually is now.
Right.
So,
Okay,
but Yanni's got more information on
thank
that.
you.
It's my understanding that this piece of road is actually controlled by NZTA, so I was going to flag just a resolution that basically just said that that the council request NZTA to work with the tannery over the implementation, because it just seems a no-brainer.
Because it's a beautiful, beautiful bus stop that we would love to see.
Lovely, wouldn't it?
Oh, sorry. That we can work with them over the Tanner Street, but there's also an issue of on Garland's Road where you've got an existing bus stop which is no longer serving the bus network, to use that as a kind of taxi and coach
Yeah.
facility, since it's already a kind of bus stop. So rather than just turn it into car parking, but NZTA have to make that
It's
decision.
state highway, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Garland's Road. So,
Yeah.
but it would be good for us to put a resolution through to request.
All right, so Yanni Johansson moves, Vicky Buck seconds that, that
We request NZTA.
we request NZTA, that the council request NZTA to work with the tannery,
Or actually just to retain the decommissioned bus stops.
sorry, to work with,
I don't think you need work with.
okay,
I think you
sorry,
just need to say, request the retention of,
request the retention of
the decommissioned bus stops
the decommissioned bus stops
on Garland's Road,
on Garland's Road,
outside the tannery,
outside the tannery,
to become a designated coach and taxi stand.
to become a designated coach and taxi stand. Yeah, request NZTA
Retain.
to retain. Yeah, yep, how's that?
Okay.
And that's been moved by councillor Johansson, seconded by councillor Buck. And I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Carried. And now councillor Lonsdale will move and councillor Johansson will second that the report as a whole be adopted. And I'll put that motion.
Sorry, just
Oh,
two other things that I think we need to bring to your attention. One is just to acknowledge that we're doing some work around the Redcliffe's Pavilion with staff and the community. So again, a bit like the enterprise that we heard from about Littleton in terms of the garage sale, but an opportunity to work with the local community around a community project, which is quite exciting. And the other thing I just wanted to make sure councillors were aware of was that we have had a request from Trees for Canterbury around their lease. So the board did depart from council policy and set the lease at a more of a community rate than a strict market rate, recognising the work that they've done. And obviously it raised a bit of a wider issue around, charging for community groups to use council property. And it's sort of a little bit ironic that, we have some other charges like professional sports that pay less than what community groups pay. So I note that we've also got another part of the agenda where there's a Spencerville, is it Spencerville, coming around, that. So there is some work I think we need to do as a council, but also just to acknowledge that Tim Jenkins was awarded a Civic Award last night for the outstanding work he'd done in terms of Trees for Canterbury over 25 years, over a long period of time. And I do think it's important just to recognise the board supported this because of the very good work that Trees for Canterbury were doing and the way in which we could help assist them where they've got a really established site. And it just seemed like a reasonable thing to do. So
There is an inconsistency in the reports, but in what they can take into account currently. So when it comes to sport and rec, they're allowed to take into account the good work and things that they do for the region, but that doesn't seem to come through from other departments. And so I've asked for some information on the consistency of what they're allowed to take into account when they're setting the leases.
So you were able to do this because of the delegation to
Yeah.
community boards for reserves, is that right?
That's right.
Because, so that's interesting because that's a policy decision that you've taken as a board that doesn't, has created a conflict with an existing policy of the council. So that's certainly something that we should be noting, and I'll thank you for raising it. Yeah, it may not be the best way to support organisations, but we should have a consistent position. That's something that we need to do some work on. All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. And now we move to the Riccarton Wigram Community Board. Thank you, Sarah.